Hi, everybody, wherever you may be from coast to coast and sea to shining sea. This will be your HF weather forecast, how the sun's impacting our HF bands for the coming week. Hope it helps you not only to make some great DX calls in amateur radio, but also shortwave. We'll start with the A1A, and this shows some new sunspots coming both north and south hemisphere of the sun, but there's a lot of radiation to replace there coming onto the west limb and disappearing from Earth's view. So expect some SFIs to drop this week. Also, some noise floors should be increasing. We had a pretty big solar flare a couple days ago. This gives us a good example of just how many sunspots are going off of the west limb of the sun, and not a lot of the cavalry there on the east limb to replace them. So our noise floors, they're going to be impacted, but more so our SFI is going to come down. We'll probably be below 150 shortly, I would say by Tuesday. So expect some significant drops in noise floors in the SFIs coming soon. Probably not until about Tuesday, unless we get a massive amount of new sunspot regions coming. Based on the last 2 weeks of data, there's not going to be a ton that have survived coming back around the sun. So I expect our SFIs to go down based on that information. Now, we can always have some new sunspots fire up, but currently there's nothing showing that the east limb is going to have a lot of relief to rebuild these sunspot regions that we're losing here on the magnetosphere view. Coronal home map 77, 78, definitely there, but not having a tremendous impact on our weather right now. There is the big solar flare that hit yesterday, definitely big, X 2.2, and look how long it lasted. I mean, we're talking a very long event, and a glancing blow by Earth is what's expected, but still, that caused a radio blackout when it happened. We're also going to talk about a massive SFI number that happened late this week and how to tell when it's not real. And that's right coming up here. Just give me a second. Global D-layer absorption, this is about what we would expect to see, just above 10 megahertz. So if the sun's overhead, like perhaps in the northern part of Australia, this could give some attenuation of the 40-meter band working daytime for you. Let's take a look at that totally false SFI reading we received earlier this week. There it is on the 18th, 343. And you may ask, how can that possibly happen? The Digison that's sent up into the atmosphere at 10.7 centimeters was sent up at the time of that solar flare when we had a lot of activity going on 2 days ago. And this was actually shows back a little bit. There was quite a bit of activity going on. When they sent it up, there was a huge amount of radiation coming. And so when the Digison came back with a very high and artificially high reading. The way to look past this, and something I found every time this happens, divide by 2, and you're really close to the real SFI. That's always been the case. And the next day, and you can see QRZ also showed the 343. The very next day, solar flux index 167. So it couldn't show down or up because the day before that was artificially high. It was incorrect. So if you ever see this happen where just all of a sudden things climb by 200 or so, or 150 in one day, it's a wrong number. Divide by 2 from the day, or from whatever they're showing, and that's really going to be the real number. Our SFI hasn't really changed since yesterday. It's still 167. Smooth sunspot number 109. Area number is 1100. That's down 160 from the day before. KP index, not bad. We've hit a KP3 earlier today, but quieting down on noise floors. Expect them to come up, though, by Monday and Tuesday. They're going to be getting a little high, maybe a G1 storm for tomorrow, and then quieting down a little bit for Tuesday, but still expect some louder conditions on the bands. This is going to pump up the Aurora. This is not showing that yet, but today and tomorrow, especially tonight and tomorrow night, expect maybe the Aurora coming a little farther south and being workable both in North America and in places in the northern part of Europe. From Canadian weather forecasters, it looks like the auroral band's going to go into the midpoint of most of the southern provinces of Canada, so possibly a chance to work the Aurora. Maximum usable frequencies around the world, 10 meters has extended south, and this is where it's too bad that 3Y0J had such bad weather. This 10-meter swath is coming right down to where they could have worked it for a few hours each day. And certainly FT8 Whiskey is working it. So let me show you real quick. We'll get to that in a moment. Northern Hemisphere, you can expect 10 meters to go as far north as Anchorage and as far north as the midpoints of both Sweden and Finland. So expect some great 10 meters working south and west for you in Europe tomorrow. The Southern Hemisphere, just that small little split where we see the two lobes of 10 meters getting kind of split up there by the 12-meter band, but excellent conditions all the way down into Argentina and Chile now in the southern hemisphere. FT8 Whiskey located right about there. It's maybe a little too far to the to the west here, just a skosh, but still the same latitude basically as Dunedin, New Zealand. So 10 meters open for much of the day to work FT8 Whiskey around the world. Just make sure you work their time zone and understand where they're working. Try and work the opposite, so you'll be able to work them pretty well. But theory now should be able to work a lot of 10 meters for a lot of the daytime hours there on Crozet Island. Your forecast. Look for SFIs to drop this week into the sub 150s. And I want to thank ICOM for helping the power of this segment. Expect some QS Baker in both hemispheres, both north and south. We've had some negative pointing BZs, and they've been pretty extreme over the last few days. So we've seen numbers go into the 5 and 6 and 7 range of minus. So that will cause some fading in both north and southern hemispheres. Noise floors could be unstable this week. Expect S0 at times, all the way up to an S4 at times this week. High D-layer absorption also up to 20 megahertz. Expect that solar flux index, solar flux index, I meant the solar flare that we had a few days ago. That's going to come here about Tuesday, and it could have a slight impact on our weather here on Earth. So expect our noise floors to have an increase from this, and maybe a little bit of a radio blackout from that as well on Tuesday. We'll have to see how well that all works out. Voice bands, north, mid, and south latitudes, just easier to say it that way for voice bands, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10. CB radio skips open most hemispheres. You should be able to work just fine on the Citizens band frequency of 11 megahertz. Data mode's great, 30 to 10 meters, all latitudes, and it's working really, really well right now. Nighttime amateur radio, QSB at times through the week. Expect noise floors to be a bit unstable at times. You'll have some good quiet noise floors at times, and then you'll see some big increase, maybe S2, S3, possibly S4, and then back down. I don't think we're hitting more than an S4 this week, though. Nighttime amateur radio, 160, 80, 60, 40, 30. Great DX on 10 meters after dark, and it takes a while to go down. 15 meters after dark is fantastic in the northern hemisphere right now, too. So pay attention to the daytime bands you normally work, and work them at night just after sunset. They'll work you some great DX for sure. Daytime shortwave listeners expect fading at times. SFIs to drop, but not too much to impact some great DXing on shortwave. Noise floors could increase to as high as maybe an S4 at times this week, so watch your headphone volume on frequencies, especially below 10 megahertz. Shortwave daytime, 31, 25, 22, 19, 15 in the 13-meter band. Nighttime shortwave, expect some fading at times. Noise floors decent, but, and this is into the weekend, but expect some rising noise floors, especially Monday, and then possibly on Tuesday as well, when that CME could impact Earth's radio wave. So we'll see what happens. Shortwave nighttime, 120, 90, 75, and 60, 49, 41, 31, 25, 22, and the 19-meter band. Open in the southern hemisphere about 2 hours after sunset, northern hemisphere about an hour after sunset, and they'll remain pretty stable throughout the week. I think we've got great DX after dark on 31, and of course the bread and butter bands in shortwave of 60, 49, 41, and 31. Just great nighttime shortwave DXing on all those frequencies. All right, guys, we're going to come back with a ham radio live show today featuring FT8, but we're going to be facing North America this time, and I hope to be able to make the call with you. Made some nice calls yesterday after the show, including to Raleigh, ZL1BQD in New Zealand. Till we meet again, God bless you, and thanks for watching this little weather segment, and enjoy your amateur radio, whether it be shortwave or ham radio. It's a great week to work it. Goodbye, everybody.